It's not buried.
Careful.
Oh, you win, buddy. You win. I think that's a murder hornet. State line, Crawfordsville, Indiana. We have murder hornets on the scene. Welcome to Crawfordsville, folks. They're actually called cicada killers, and they're pretty harmless to humans. But that's still pretty scary. That's a nope wasp. That's wow. And in other news, welcome to the Crawfordsville Jail. This is the home of the Rotary Jail. This seems like a very welcoming area. Let's get into the trip. So we started off our trip going to Crawfordsville for no apparent reason whatsoever. Well, I mean, realistically, we had to get some laundry done and probably flush out our tanks and a bunch of other really mundane tasks. But while we were here, we took a look at what was in the area. I did some videos for my other YouTube channel. There's a link up here for you. And this is the Rotary Jail. This is the first one ever made, and it is actually a really cool invention. Each one of these cells has room for 2 inmates, and then it is stacked 2 high, 3 high. I don't know. I don't do math on camera. You guys know that if you've watched the channel for any length of time. But there's room for 32 prisoners here, and it was made as a drunk tank. And one of the issues that they ran into was the way that the jail is laid out. People like to stick their hands through the bars, and as the jail cells rotate around to let people out, accidents happened, like, you know, missing hands. Best case scenario. Missing hands was the best case scenario. There was worse, is what I mean. But it's a pretty efficient design. It's a pretty cool design. It's kind of interesting as a design, but the whole thing moves. And as you can imagine, the guy that invented this thing was an old railroad engineer. Think about railroad turntables that they used to use to move locomotives around. These things were made so that they could be moved by hand, the locomotive turntables. The jail itself could be moved by hand. There's a hand crank that moves it, but you really didn't need the hand crank. The thing is perfectly balanced. It's all set up to be moved. It's like 30 tons of steel, not including the prisoners, not including the drunks. Not including the drunks. It was actually pretty shocking how easy it was to move this thing by hand. They had a little crank system with a gear reduction to make it even easier, but I don't really think you needed it. And as all of this steel, all of this rotating mass, all of this inertia developed, it could get pretty dangerous. So this is not your typical jail. Notice the ornate carvings on the handrails. These handrails go all the way up to the 3rd floor. The 3rd floor being not open to the public. Notice the wallpaper. Notice these 3 pictures here at the bottom of the staircase. These are the 3 politicians that approved this, which went over budget, which are no longer politicians. Ended before their term ended. Wonder why. All kidding aside, the sheriff's office was part of the Crawfordsville Rotary Jail system, and the sheriff's office was also a place where you would entertain certain dignitaries, certain people of stature, if you will. And so that's why this building looked as nice as it did. Keep in mind that if you're trying to win the election as the sheriff of the county, your wife's cooking would be on the judging table during the election. We stayed at the Crawfordsville KOA Journey in Crawfordsville, Indiana. Very nice campground. Not as good as the KOA we stayed at before. There's a link up here for you to that video. I guess KOAs are kind of a franchise, and overall they work out very well. We were happy with the stay, but I mean, if you had to compare the two, the one we stayed at before was a lot nicer than this one. This one was great. They had lots of fresh landscaping. They were really taking good care. They were trying to upgrade and improve the place. I'd recommend that you definitely stay here if you are in Crawfordsville, Indiana, only because I don't know any other place to stay at in Crawfordsville, Indiana. KOAs overall are pretty nice campgrounds, and they've got a couple of cabins here. They've got a pool here. They've got laundry facilities. You can get mail here. There was a lot of traffic during the weekend, and then it was pretty quiet during the week. We enjoyed our stay here. You probably will too. I mean, come on, they had kittens. Kittens! You can't argue with kittens, can you? This was a fantastic trip. We are currently working this year on planning our trips based on major destinations. Our major destination right now is Huntsville, Alabama for the Huntsville Ham Fest. Along the way, we're staying wherever makes sense. Next week, we're going to be staying at the Tailwaters in Glasgow, Kentucky on the Barren River. There's a video right here I think you'll enjoy next. I will see you over there.